I noticed a new trend in SJW writing styles, which is very interesting. And it doesn't have to do with identity. I guess it kind of does. In a way, it has to do with mental illness. And I'll show you this in a second. But it's not like the typical, here's the skin color or here's the gay person that you typically see. But it is something that ruins stories and ruins characters to an equal extent. And I'm going to show a couple examples of that from recent comics. What's weird is it's happening in these street level hardcore crime fighting comics where, you would expect the opposite to be the case with these characters. And I'm being vague intentionally because it's, you got to stay for the goods here. But my name is John Delarose. I am a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator, and I have a high school girl in the Crusades manga-style comic. This is a manga take. We're parodying basically isekai manga, which is a flip script on my own graphic novel Dave's Volt from last year. It's on Kickstarter for just 53 more hours as of the recording of this video. We've got 50 backers on here in addition to the nearly 400 we had on Indiegogo. So thank you so much, everybody who's supported so far. Over 400 backers total, getting close to $20,000 on this book. We really appreciate you guys. You're awesome. That link will be in the description below, and please support the channel. It won't be around after this 53 hours. This is going to be the last chance to get this book, so make sure you do so. It'll be a lot of fun. All right. Fun is a good transition because we're going to transition to unfun. And that's in Batman. So I was looking at a tweet from professional comic artist Ethan Van Sciver this morning, one of the best comic artists in the industry, and he is reading through a recent issue of Batman where it just is ridiculous. First off, you have the quirky, strong woman, I mean, just looking visually at this before we get into the dialogue, who's sitting there tilting her head at Batman, consoling him, touching him, and Batman's just kind of standing there moping. This has been the hallmark of Batman since Tom King started writing it. He just turned Batman into this, really depressed, mentally ill person who isn't helping anything at all. It's an anti-hero. It's not a hero anymore, and it's really sad what they've done with that. But this is not the only one. I found another example of this exact same thing that's going on the flip side on Marvel, which comes from Daredevil, which is a very similar book to Batman if you think about it. And we get much the same mischaracterization going on. Ethan's pretty funny here. He says, I think I'm going to throw up. Hey, mentally ill writers, not every character you're writing is you. Stop projecting your own personal neurosis onto characters you didn't create who already have enough of their own established problems. Bat pussy. And that's exactly what we have going on here. So here we go. Batman's got whatever he has going on. I don't even know who this girl is. You know it's okay, right? I mean, getting scared. Everybody's scared. But that just means everyone gets the opportunity to, we get to fight that fear. We have a chance to be brave. And just look at this. You want to talk about Batman being brave or just being scared or whatever. That's not who the character is. Bruce Wayne is a multi-billionaire who's out there in a suit fighting crime. He's a detective. He is an alpha. He is a guy who's not going to sit around and mope, not sit around and think about what people think about him, not worry about, whether I'm doing the right thing or not. That's not how characters like that operate. And when he gets all mopey and depressed like this and scared Batman, it just doesn't make sense. The only time that should happen is you got Scarecrow who has his fear gas or whatever that just messes with people. That's the only time we should see that happening with the Batman. The Batman should not be this mopey, depressed character with his fear of everything neurosis. Now, I think my analysis on this, I think this came out of COVID, where we have these writers who, one, are pretty agoraphobic anyway. If you don't know what that word means, go look it up. I'm not going to bother. But these are people who are nerdy people who are always lonely in their own houses, so they can't relate to normal people. They especially can't relate to a successful, awesome character like Bruce Wayne. So everybody then has to be them, as Mr. Van Sciver mentions, and everybody then ends up this lonely, fear-filled person just like them. And this exacerbated during COVID. If you think about it, all these people are the same people who are deathly afraid of getting the flu. And maybe they should be, because all these people usually are pretty large and in charge and have diabetes and all those other comorbidities, which is a word we learned during COVID also. But for normal people, that's not the case. And for somebody like Bruce Wayne, who's beyond a normal person, he's a super person. That should never be the case. This is a terrible characterization of the character. And it's just really bizarre that there's this strong woman who's not emotional, who's just awesome and knows how to deal with her emotions, dealing with an emotional man. This is definitely some writer's bizarre fantasy because that's not how men and women act in real life, let alone the Batman. All right, the next one I found today is very similar. Like I said, this happened in Daredevil too, and here is the Kingpin. The Kingpin murdered somebody. Oh no. Well, guess what? The Kingpin's murdered a lot of people over the course of Daredevil comics. And so now this happens, and he does it, and he has this this assistant he has helping him clean up his messes. And now I'm scared, Wesley. I haven't felt scared in ... trail off. This is the Kingpin. This is like the baddest of the bad. He is the biggest sociopath out there. He's scared because he killed someone. What is wrong with these writers? This is not how the Kingpin should be acting. This doesn't make any sense. This comes from Chip Zdarsky. Everybody talks about how great this run is because it's a copy pasta of the Dark Daredevil, where Daredevil's losing everything, which we've seen 1,000 times. But it's just bizarre watching the Kingpin act like this. This is very out of character. It doesn't make much sense. It threw me out of the story very hard when I was reading this, and I just thought I'd highlight it because it's just another example of this, like, turning characters into complete pussies, which is what these people are. I mean, if you look at Tom King or Chip Zdarsky and how they act on the internet, they put up their little token corporate statements about politics all the time, and if anybody goes, hey, you guys are making comics lousy, or gives any constructive criticism on comics like this, they'll block you immediately. They're scared of their own readers. They're scared of fans of these characters because they know that they're doing a lousy job at it. They always talk about, with writers, imposter syndrome, and that's what they've made all the main characters into. Wilson Fisk here, the freaking Kingpin, is dealing with his own imposter syndrome. It doesn't make sense that the Kingpin would do that. He's not an imposter. He's the real deal. Same with Batman. Batman is now having imposter syndrome, and the woman has to help him out with that because he's just so sad about it. And this is exactly what these men have who are comic book writers. It's their own neuroses, as Mr. Van Sciver said. It's not something that these characters should represent, and it's a terrible mischaracterization of these characters. The sad part is that editors really haven't done anything for comics in a long time. They just sit there and they check the boxes. They don't care if things fit continuity. They don't care if it makes sense with the characters. Everything just has to be some sort of statement about, like, politics or identity, or in this case, like, mental illness of the writers themselves. And this is what's going on in mainstream comics these days. Well, this is why we've created an alternative where we can just have fun again. We don't have to deal with neuroses. Obviously, I don't identify as a high school girl. I just made this character because in isekai, in normal shoujo fantasy manga like this, that's the type of character that you always have. So I threw the trope in there. I made a recognizable trope. I made a character who you would recognize if you're a fan of, like, Inuyasha or Fushigi Yugi or Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura. This is the type of thing that you'd see on here. I write characters that are their own characters. They're not just projections of myself. And that's what professional writers should do. That's what we're trying to bring back with our little comics movement. And, I think we're succeeding on the indie level. So we've got a little mini renaissance going on while the mainstream corporate comics are really in the doldrum. That's the difference you'll find every single time, and I'm glad you guys are with us. All right, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this writing trend. I'd love to hear from you. And hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.